Hello there, it's Adam. No, wait.
And Noah, yeah. Hi. I think one of us is Adam Jenkins. I don't remember what happened with that.
And this
Anyway,
this is a breaking topical news update.
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. I don't know what I'm doing, but anyway, yeah, breaking news in the sense that it came out like
Topical news update.
it was topical like yesterday. Now it's probably old hat. You know who wants old news? Media majors. But anyway, what is the news item that we're talking about that we just remembered to talk about?
Okay, so Barnes & Noble, which is an American book retailer place thing.
He's struggling to remember what Barnes & Noble is.
No,
It's the only major chain bookstore in the United States that I can think of off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was like worldwide or whatever.
I think it's on worldwide, of course. Everything's worldwide now.
So anyway, Barnes & Noble has decided not to stock any more DC books.
Yes, apparently there was an incident involving a Kindle, some Fire. Wait a minute, I just realized the new Amazon Kindle thing is called like Amazon something Fire.
Kindle Fire, book burning, yeah.
Kindling! You use kindling to make fires.
Yeah.
Why does all of this always suggest book burning? Anyway.
Damn Nazis!
Now we had to cut in the video because Noah had to remember everything that happened, and now we are all up to speed with Noah, and we were saying something about kindling. Yeah, why do they always kindling with the Amazon Kindle? It doesn't make any sense.
They're supposed to kindle knowledge.
That would suggest burning knowledge, which is even worse.
Burn the people.
Burning things, burning books.
Kindle Fire.
Burning books onto CDs, maybe, or burning books onto Kindles. I don't know. But, so DC made a deal with the Kindle or with Amazon, to release 100 or so graphic novels, trade paperbacks and stuff. I don't know. I don't like the term graphic novel, but that's a whole other thing. Graphic novels specifically onto the Kindle Fire system thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Barnes & Noble...
It's a video game, right?
Definitely not a video game.
Okay.
And Barnes & Noble got very upset and angry because what about the Nook? They can't get any crannies into their Nooks, so now they got really angry and they rage quit on DC, essentially pulling all DC books from their shelves and refusing to sell anything published by DC at all in any of their stores ever.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, reactions.
No, I do not like.
And why do you not like?
Because Barnes & Noble is pretty much the only major book retailer left in the United States, and maybe worldwide, I'm not sure. They are a huge retailer of not just books, but of comics. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people who only get comics at Barnes & Noble because they don't have a comic store, or maybe they just don't like using online comic retailers, or whatever the point is. They kind of rely on Barnes & Noble for their comics, and if they're DC fans, now they're kind of screwed out of the hobby. And it does seem like purely rational. Like Barnes & Noble, by doing this, is only hurting fans, it seems, of the comics.
See, the way I see it, there are like two problems with that. First off, I think it's important to give context. Barnes & Noble is not and has never been a major retailer of comic books by any means.
They have stocked comics a lot.
But I'm saying that in stores, there is very little that they actually have that... I mean, if you compare it to, let's say, a comic book shop.
Yeah.
Let's say, compare Midtown Comics to... What's the biggest Barnes & Noble in Manhattan?
No.
Well, compare it to then the one on 14th Street, Union Square.
Okay.
Now, if you compare the supply of comic books that are available at a comic store, or even any smaller comic store in the city, with what they have at Barnes & Noble, it's not even comparable.
Yeah,
they are not a significant... You're not going to go there to get your weekly books.
They do have weeklies.
But you're not... I'm just saying that overall, when you're...
They have weekly comics.
Not the same.
They get them, yeah. I mean, not in the same amount, but they do get comics, weekly new comics in their stores. It's usually like in the magazine section, though.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, if that's the case, then I could just go to... that's another interesting item. Magazine stands used to carry comics, and nowadays they don't.
They carry porn, though.
Yeah, so really, I mean, I think that if we're talking about, like, magazine stands, and we're talking about, like, that sort of selection, I think that you're raising another point that you don't necessarily need to go to a major book retailer.
But for a lot of people... But comic book stores are rare.
Really,
Not a lot of.
But what I'm saying is that, for example, at the E-Train in Jamaica, there's just a newsstand that sells comic books. It's not a lot, but it's still, for a magazine stand, that's what it's got. What I'm saying is that the main focus here is the paperbacks that are being pulled. It's not like... As I'm saying, I don't think Barnes & Noble has ever really been a major comic retailer. That it's not going to be a significant loss for Barnes & Noble because that's never been a major part, percentage-wise, of what they sell. And at the same time, as far as comic fans go, I doubt that a very large percentage of comics readers rely on Barnes & Noble as their main comic source, assuming that, assuming that the internet is not available to them and there are no comic book stores in their area at all, and no newsstands at all that do carry comics, then perhaps we could see Barnes & Noble in that respect. But I think the main loss here is going to be in the trade paperback area. It's the big collected volumes that people would, pick up at Barnes & Noble. So overall, I think what we're going to...
I still think it's kind of a... It's not the smartest or, like, the best move for Barnes & Noble. Like, just for the sake of the customers. Because there are people who do go to Barnes & Noble to read comics and to pick it up. Even if it's not a big amount, there are still people who do it. And, like, Barnes & Noble... Okay, Harry Potter has a deal with Sony, and Harry Potter is only available on Sony ebooks. But Barnes & Noble still carries Harry Potter books. And you can still buy Harry Potter there, and they still have them on the shelves and whatnot. And it's the same thing.
And that's just 7 books.
Yeah. And, like Harry Potter's a much larger base. If they wanted to, do it as a protest technique, you can't just, take one thing and favor it over all the others and not allow Harry Potter on the Nook, then it would catch a lot more attention if they did it with Harry Potter. They're only doing it with DC because they could get away with it.
Well, I mean,
I know that DC doesn't have as large a fan base.
That goes to Barnes & Noble. I mean, I think that's the important point, is that it's not... I don't think that this is supposed to be a protest against people trying to publish things on different platforms in general. I think it's specifically a reaction against DC. And naturally, if they were making enough money from DC that it would benefit them significantly or hurt to keep DC books on their shelves or hurt them significantly to take DC books off their shelves, then they wouldn't do this. I think this is more Barnes & Noble's way of saying, oh yeah, if you're going to be difficult and you're not going to even talk to us about this, and you're not going to negotiate with us with regards to using our platform, well, we don't really need you after all, and just kind of canceling out there. What I think is interesting is that DC's parent company still has a tremendous amount at Barnes & Noble. I mean, DC is not an independent publisher by any means.
Mm-hmm.
They're owned by Time Warner, and Time Warner has numerous publishing divisions, not to mention multimedia, that is stocked and makes up a tremendous percentage of Barnes & Noble's stock. So I don't think this is... I don't think this is going to go up there. Is this necessarily a permanent thing? Is it going
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I doubt that the DC ban for, I mean, especially like just trade paperbacks, which take up, 2 shelves in a bookstore, it's not, I don't think that in the long run it's significant enough that some sort of blood feud between DC and Barnes & Noble is going to be able to hold out. Either DC is, well, actually, I'm not, knowing DC, I'm really not going to say that DC is going to cave and start negotiating with Barnes & Noble, but I think in the long run, Barnes & Noble is going to go, we might as well carry these things, because I don't think anyone's really being hurt or benefited either way in the long run in significant
But if anyone is getting hurt, it's the customers. And they are the most important part, I think. Well, like, if it hurts one customer, then that's still bad, and you should still try and not do that.
Oh, and also, one thing I just want to mention, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, they are, I believe, still selling DC books on over the computer, over the internet. That Barnes & Noble, if you go to their website, you can still order. It's just in stores that they're not carrying them. Mm-hmm. So, or perhaps, I don't. I think this is, a lot of this stems from Barnes & Noble wanting to be both a distributor and a publisher,
Mhm.
that they have traditionally been a bookstore, but they distribute books published by other companies, and that makes sense, that's what bookstores do. But now that they have the Nook, and now that the e-reader, the Kindle as well, is becoming a significant thing, they're trying to be publishers. We're going to publish books to be read on this platform. And that raises problems, because to carry other books in stock, you do still have to negotiate with other publishing companies while still trying to act as a publishing company yourself. So I think that they got pissed at DC as publishers, but they're taking it out on them as distributors. So I think that this, even not necessarily in the world of comic books, creates a lot of significant problems we're going to see with the e-reader in the long run, as long as we have these platforms that are so restrictive and can carry such specific titles. So yeah, do you buy anything from Barnes & Noble ever?
Not really.
My problem with Barnes & Noble, they never have anything
No.
that I want. And I mean, and also they're still carrying Marvel. So I mean,
Yeah.
if people are, if you're a casual person looking around.
I know that just intro. I know that our friend, a lot of people pick up manga at Barnes & Noble.
Oh yeah, well that's
and that's different, but it's kind of similar in that it is a comic.
Yeah, although I think manga is taken a lot more seriously in the United States.
No, comics are taken more seriously in the United States. Manga's silly.
Is it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think people. I think people do. There's still a significant market for that. Like even if you go to Barnes & Noble and you look at the shelves, you have like 2 giant long rows of shelves
For manga,
and then you've got like 2 little shelves next to each other. One of them is DC, one of them is
Marvel.
No, one of them is Marvel, one of them is half DC, half something else. So it's
Yeah.
like, if we're talking about half a shelf worth of space, I'm not sure that this is going to be making much of a difference in the long run. Either way, yeah, I might have gotten like one thing once from Barnes & Noble. Also, my other point.
I got some calendars at Barnes & Noble once.
Also, the other thing is that I noticed most of the things I can get at Barnes & Noble, and also, again, I think a lot of, even in the reaction, it is largely like the most popular trade paperbacks that people actually buy from Barnes & Noble. That is what they sell. Most of that, you could even go to the library and get.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you can't own things from a library.
I know, but what I'm saying is that if we're talking about...
And libraries aren't doing too well either. A lot of libraries are closing down. Barnes & Noble is kind of the last outlet for the written media. Or, like printed
The last
books.
brick and mortar
Yeah,
outlet.
and a lot of people still use...
or the largest brick and mortar outlet, I would say.
Not a lot of towns have comic book stores or kind of niche things like that.
Not a lot of towns have comic book stores or newsstands or libraries.
No, well, they don't have...
We do need to get comics back in the newsstands, though.
Yeah, Barnes & Noble is kind of the place that you go in a lot of places to buy books and comics and just anything of that sort.
I still have trouble wrapping my mind around around the idea of Barnes & Noble being like, I'm going to get some comics, it's time to go to Barnes & Noble. I mean, it's just...
Well, we live in New York. We have, Midtown Comics, and we have all these places.
The thing is, when I go to Barnes & Noble and I look at comics, there's still very little that they actually have. I mean, on any level. So, I mean, if you're going to Barnes & Noble to get comics, even if assuming they're carrying DC Comics, you're already screwed.
Mm-hmm.
So...
But it's still bad for that customer who does have to go to Barnes & Noble to buy their comics.
Yeah.
Because that was their last
little
tiny spring of, comic book.
No, their last little tiny spring of DC comic book.
Of DC comic
that Marvel still does exist. And Marvel, I mean, arguably Marvel's in some ways more successful than DC, definitely. So, I mean, it's not so much comic book fans, just comic book fans who don't have computers and can't buy things online and don't have libraries or newsstands that carry comic books or comic book stores in their towns who only read DC Comics.
13-year-old kids. And, kids don't... Well, teenagers don't have credit cards or debit cards, often. So they have to, if they're going to buy something with their own money, they have to do it at a brick-and-mortar store.
You can't just go to your parents, okay, here's some cash, can you use your
I know that for the longest time, my parents didn't trust online, to buy shit.
Your parents are crazy.
Yeah.
So, if you are a 13-year-old kid who lives in a town without any comic book stores or newsstands that carry comics or libraries, and you don't read Marvel comics and you have parents who are crazy, then this certainly probably has hurt you. In the long run, I think for most people, more of an inconvenience than anything else. I mean, especially, I think, the person that's going to affect most is a casual reader who is not so much looking for weekly comics, who maybe doesn't even read comics on a weekly basis, who's just going to get, like, let's say, Watchmen or something like that. The big, significant paperback that
I think it's immature. Like, either way, I think it's an immature thing of Barnes & Noble to do. It's rash,
I think it's a
reactionary.
I think it's a business decision. It's saying, if you're not going to show us respect in the business field, if you're not going to negotiate with us, if you're not going to acknowledge us, if you're not going to talk to us, then we don't want to do business with you. And I think that, in principle, that I don't think is terribly immature. I think it might not be the most practical decision, but I also think that there's an understandable element to it.
No, it's understandable. Well, still, I don't like it.
Well, yeah,
and it made Neil Gaiman sad on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to like it. I mean, I'm a little bit more indifferent than anything, but yeah, it's probably, again, I don't think it's the best idea. It's probably not going to work out in the long run. I would like to see if Warner Brothers suddenly, like, starts pulling their movies out of Barnes & Noble. It's not going to happen, but I'd like to, because they're putting it on the Warner Brothers brand DVD player that can only play... the Amazon brand DVD player. What's something like Kindle? What's something that's like wood for kindling? Faggot. The faggot. The faggot Blu-ray player that can only play
faggot
DVDs.
files.
That can only play faggot files made by Amazon. Yeah, that sounds horrible.
The faggot.
I know, yeah, the faggot. I mean, that's never actually going to happen.
You can't think of another thing that versions that.
I don't know. Log. It's boring.
Yeah.
It's like, that is probably one of the closest synonyms to kindling, though. And we've gone on for like 17 minutes. And I know we've restated a lot of stuff over and over again, but it's an interesting thing. We're going to have to see how it develops, if it develops. Also, what you could do is, if you want to protest this, not that anyone's actually going to, but if you want to be annoying to people, they say, apparently, no DC books are going to be put on Barnes & Noble premises anymore. So take your own copy of a book, go to Barnes & Noble, sit down, and read it. And I'm betting you, no one will even notice.